A brief rundown of some of the news and guests coming up today. And then I want to get into a breaking report here that in the next 15 minutes, Kurt Nemo is going to have an article up on Infowars.com dealing with the fact that FEMA camp, rendition, federal kidnapping hub sites have been identified. And, of course, not only have we identified a new site, and I've made some phone calls and done some checking in it, and indeed is some type of high-security prisoner extraction holding facility at LAX, but it mirrors other facilities at Bergstrom International in Austin, the old Robert Mueller, Pier 57 in New York, all of it. I'm going to recap that and then get into these reports here in just a moment. But coming up in the second hour, author and researcher and former political prisoner, author of Bloodlines of the Illuminati, Fritz Springmeier, will be joining us. Then we have Dr. Stan Monteith. He'll be riding shotgun with us, with Bob Chapman during his weekly visit. Rarely does Monteith actually contact us and say, hey, I want to come on. He said he's talked to a CFR individual and has some big intel on the upcoming strike on Iran. Speaking of that, Iran is saying they're going to let the UN IAEA back in to inspect their nuclear sites. Israel says that they're bluffing on attacks and will basically back off if pressure's continually put on them. That's in the New York Times and Jerusalem Post. Gold prices are soaring on Fed news and other factors. So they've announced they're going to start quantitative easing 3. That means big-time inflation. There's also reports that GDP actually imploded in the last year, 1.2%, and that's even with cooked numbers. Also, they're spinning leaked video that shows Rand Paul wasn't basically irate at the facility, and that he was detained. It shows him in a cubicle with police around it, keeping him there. And the TSA's released a small clip of it, acting like that's the entirety of how long Rand Paul was there, when he said it was close to 2 hours. And witnesses have said that. So it's incredible how they will spin things. That is coming up as well. Obama accused of contempt of court in birther hearing. Secretary of State warns Obama, mishearing at your own peril. They are trying to make him show up for this hearing to prove his citizenship. We know he did have a fake Social Security number that was somebody else's out of Connecticut. We do know his files are sealed. We do know he went by other names. We do know his entire family was CIA. Continuing with some of that news, we'll be breaking that down with Obama and his car company that he's backed with the battery-operated system is filing for bankruptcy. That was just basically a shell corporation that they used to pay off some of their political contributors. So that's all coming up today and a lot more. Also, there's a big manufactured controversy. Really, it's a jealousy issue by the king of the terrible dinosaur media, the globalist media, New York Times, more and more becoming a non-issue, just dwindling and shriveling up to nothing, like a vampire that's hit by the sun at high noon. Conservatives criticized Drudge for anti-Gingrich assault. And all Drudge did the last 3 days was link to all of the major conservative sites, from the Washington Times to Forbes to, I mean, you name it, National Review, pointing out that Gingrich has been for open borders, carbon taxes, called for global government, all this stuff. I mean, that's who Newt Gingrich is. And so the New York Times is acting like conservatives are mad at the Drudge Report, when these aren't conservatives that are defending Newt Gingrich. I mean, it is ridiculous to claim that conservatives are defending Newt Gingrich. Newt Gingrich is a joke. And let me get this straight. I don't like Mitt Romney. He's for carbon taxes. He's been for abortion in the past. He wrote Obamacare. He's a globalist big time. But he's not as evil as Newt Gingrich. I mean, Newt Gingrich is anti-family, anti-U.S. sovereignty, and has written articles that I've read on air calling for it, that the so-called conservatives that are attacking him, they're just more rhinos. Gingrich is so extreme that rhinos don't even like him. Okay? And so the New York Times claim, conservatives criticize Drudge for anti-Gingrich assault. Furious conservatives have taken to blogs and Twitter on Thursday to vent their ire against what they allege is conspiratorial dumping of twisted and manipulative negative attacks on Newt Gingrich. See, when you can think for yourself, it's called a conspiracy. It's called conspiracy theory. And it makes my head spin that this type of stuff goes on. Now, it has come out, it's been all over the news the last week, that almost all of Gingrich's Twitter responses, in fact, Aaron was showing me in the article, it was like 90-something%. Guys, print 90%. I don't know the exact percent, it's 90 plus, but just say 90%. Type in fake Gingrich Twitter responses, and it'll pop up. Now, it's the same thing with Romney. It's the same thing with all these guys. And it's come out that Romney and Gingrich, their crowds are almost completely paid for and fake. And when he doesn't have paid people, then he has no one there for him. And then Ron Paul's this rock star. There's election fraud in South Carolina, folks. There was election fraud in Iowa. There's going to be election fraud in Florida. Ron Paul is the front runner. Every article I go to, I type in Ron Paul into a search engine a couple times a day. Every article is 5 to 1, 10 to 1, you name it, for Ron Paul in articles attacking him, in neutral articles, you name it. In articles that don't mention Ron Paul, they're about Mitt Romney and Gingrich. It's all Ron Paul supporters. I mean, it's a fraud. It's a hoax. Just like the New York Times is a hoax. The New York Times makes hundreds of millions of dollars a year. Last time I checked, it's like $500 million a year. And they still had a shortfall of hundreds of millions. And they have less visitors than the Drudge Report. And the Drudge Report probably makes $4 or $5 million a year. Again, it's a hoax. Infowars.com, dozens of times bigger than MSNBC.com. We make a fraction of what they do. Because when the global corporate sellout slug New World Order trash, yeah, there it is, report, Time Magazine, 92% of Newt Gingrich's Twitter followers aren't real. Anyways, there it is. So, the globalists tithe to the media. They know it's a failure. They know it doesn't make money. They know it's not popular. They pay for it so that there's at least an echo chamber of propaganda. I mean, how is that? How is it that Infowars.com conservatively, last time I checked the metric, gets about 50-plus times the traffic of the Austin American-Statesman? And the Austin American-Statesman makes tens upon tens upon tens of millions of dollars. I think last time I checked, you know, it's grossing something like 50, 60 million a year. I forget. You can pull it up. Just like I forget if it was 90 or 92. It's 92% of his Twitter followers are fake. All I know is that I'm much bigger than a big giant building full of all these employees that no one reads, no one trusts, and no one listens to. But it's emperor's new clothes. Everybody goes along with it, that they're the biggest thing in the world, so everyone just bows down to it all day like it is. All right, I'm digressing here. I just read an article like this, and it is the discredited New York Times that is hanging on by its fingernails to any readership, any credibility, anything. And that's why they're going to try to shut down freedom on the web. That's why they're delisting InfoWars and Prison Planet from Google News. That's why they're censoring us on military bases and government buildings all over the world. They're censoring us, folks, because they're scared to death. They know we are absolutely on a tilted football field, going uphill, getting touchdowns, beating them. So they just want to shut down the entire game, even though we're going uphill, dragging balls and chains behind us. They want to shut down the entire game and just flip the field straight up so we fall down into Hades, basically. We're going to skip this network break because I'm on a time schedule with 3 guests coming up, and I've got to get to both these special reports that we're about to cover. So I'm skipping this network break. Stations I know out there should not be going over this network break. I just eat this, and the network eats it. We re-air the ads later. I'm going to get to it in a minute. And if the water doesn't rise over Bear Creek today, I'm going to list a bunch of new affiliates we've got. I didn't get to it yesterday. But, by the way, speaking of Drudge Report, our article's up there. Obama signs global internet treaty worse than SOPA. White House bypasses Senate to ink agreement that could allow Chinese companies to demand ISPs remove web content in U.S. with no legal oversight. Paul Watson's in China right now with his wife. That's why he was reading it in the Chinese papers and wrote this from China. Lo and behold, that same day, it came out, UK denotices to go worldwide. British government is already ordering Google, and Google's complying, we now learn for 2 years at least, to take down and delist websites in the United States that the British government doesn't like. Already happening. Already going on. Already taking place because they have to. The shriveled New York Times, MSNBC, and the rest of these pathetic dinosaurs are already extinct. They've already turned to ashes like that vampire at high noon and blown away. All they want to do now is take us down with them and shut us down because they're in total panic. That's why the White House regulations are back in the news saying shut down people that don't agree with them, shut down websites that criticize electric cars. He was in the news 2 days ago saying that. I mean, you talk about Twilight Zone tyrant-level control freak, spasms and temper tantrums publicly. But these scum are in control. They've hijacked the country. So just because everybody knows they're a pack of lying crooks doesn't mean that we're not in deep trouble. Oh, it makes me want to throw up. And worse news out today, EU signs the ACTA Global Internet Censorship Treaty. All the European countries have signed on. Japan signed on. They all love the censorship. It's here. Get ready. They're coming for us. Because they can't stand it. They can't stand the fact that they can't sit there and be arrogant media whores anymore and that no one wants to listen to them. Now, this is a breaking news report here. These are excerpts from my film Martial Law, my film Police State to the Takeover. That's from 2000. And from Martial Law 2005, confirming that they have these FEMA-funded hubs and Sandpoint Naval Brig in Seattle where they put political protesters under FEMA's control. And then you tie that into the Emergency Centers Establishment Act, and you tie that into all the admissions that they have these hubs at airports, like they have here at Austin, at the old Robert Mueller, and at the new airport, Bergstrom. They have these holding hubs with porta potties, cots, bolts, and chains in the floor to hold political dissidents. And this has been admitted for more than 13 years that we've known of. When Rob Dew, my reporter, he's suing right now, they're trying to settle with him, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, over arresting him for videotaping from a hilltop, them beating and arresting protesters. They took him to a military base. They had people getting off trucks with bags on their heads, and the police were all there with the military, set up with the computer terminals, running and all. So military bases, sports stadiums. In fact, that's in the news today about the sports stadiums. That's in the Miami newspaper. They want to put the homeless basically forcibly in the ballparks and stadiums. That's Miami Herald. So all of that's going on. You got urban warfare drills everywhere, and we get sent photos from LAX in an area, and we went and checked the Google Earth. I made some phone calls and confirmed it is an emergency center of the police and FEMA. That's all police that I've talked to know. And the word is it's going to be used to hold people, to take them out to the airfield and split up and break up different groups that are going to rendition centers, that are going to overseas torture camps, that are being taken to other federal facilities. So this is a rendition mothership area.
The worst thing is I finally saw something with my own eyes. It's one thing to talk about it, hear people talk about it on the radio, etc. I saw this with my own eyes at LAX, the Los Angeles airport. They've built a giant human holding pen. It's obvious. It's quite obvious what it's for. It's for processing people. This thing, they used to park all of our limousines and cars and buses at the eastern end of the north set of runways. There's two sets of runways at LAX. They used to park all of us at the eastern end of the north runway where the planes would land right over the top of us. They moved us all out of there this past summer, which I thought was strange. What I saw was when I pulled in there, and I was followed twice by the cops when I pulled in and I took pictures. This thing it's a holding pen. It could hold thousands of people. It's right next to the tarmac. There's no buildings, no nothing. It's like a 10 or 12-foot fence with a permanent concrete base around the base of it. And there's two sets of barbed wire on top facing in and out. So, there's fences like that all over around the airport area.
They actually have one of those at Bergstrom and at the old airport. And I first reported it was a secret holding pen. But the news said I was a conspiracy theorist, but that it was to hold people during civil unrest. So I'm bad for being right and breaking the news. I don't get an award. I'm bad because I'm right, and it's kooky not to like it.
What's going on at the old airport?
This is where the party could end up, Walt, if A2K and Y2K partiers do get out of hand.
These turnstiles, let me describe them. Because
okay, we're going to go to break. We're going to back it up. We're showing you reports from 12 years ago and yesterday. The piece you just heard is excerpts from a film I made in 2000, Police State to the Takeover, a film I made in 2005, Martial Law, and it's the footage of FEMA running, the military and police putting citizens in a FEMA camp in Seattle. FEMA ran setting up these same detainment facilities at the airports here in Austin. They're still there. And then sold it like, well, it's pretty rioting during, Mardi Gras or during the New Year. They just sit there. But it was cops that told me about it. I knew about it before it was on the news. And then we have this new report and the photos that we're showing on the radio, but we have the eyewitness there and we've done some research. It is indeed a high security area and is built on to the flight path so that they can just put people on board the aircraft. Barbed wire facing in and out, turnstiles that are one-way, prison style, places for buses to pull in, ultra super creepy. And clearly a rendition center. So breaking, FEMA camp rendition hubs discovered, past and present. I just played you newscasts where they're saying FEMA's running, putting the citizens in the naval brig. And what does the Emergency Centers Act say from last year? They tried to pass. They tried to just legalize what's already there in the bill, that they'll use the old military bases, brigs, under FEMA to hold people during emergencies and civil unrest. What are they saying in the Miami Herald? Let's put all the homeless people in the sports stadiums. What did I tell you was coming during the economic collapse? This has been done in other countries. I've watched the congressional hearings on it. I've read the Emergency Centers Act. I've read the Military Commissions Act. I've read the Civilian Inmate Labor Camp Program, declassified in '97 by Clinton. They had U.S. prisoners in secret prisons run by the military, regular U.S. prisoners, for decades before Bill Clinton declassified it. There's real camps already. And you can't get the corporate dinosaur media to cover it. They're now saying it's a conspiracy theory that Drudge is linking to articles showing that Newt Gingrich isn't conservative. That's mind control. If you say lemon pie is lemon pie, they go conspiracy. If you say milk is white, they say conspiracy. You say sky is blue. You have all the documents about FEMA camps. And they're building the hubs everywhere, and they look at you and say it's a conspiracy theory. They talk to you like you're an idiot. They're still saying there's no world government as it's being announced. Let's go back to the end of the piece. This is going on right now at LAX. Here it is, brand new.
Turnstiles, let me describe them. Because you could say, well, it's part of an airport. No. These are those big tubular steel turnstiles. They go in, they don't come back out. There's no way to get back out. There's 4 sets of them, so there's like 16 turnstiles to go into this thing. And it's like the size of 3 football fields. You could get thousands of people. The thing about it that proves what it is because there's on the fence that goes onto the tarmac. It goes straight onto the airport tarmac. Where, what kind of security is that? They put a big black gate that you can pull trucks, buses, whatever, into this holding pen. So it's built to move lots of people quickly into this pen and then move them onto the tarmac. Now, what is that for? Except to move people and put them onto aircraft?
No, that's like the Oklahoma City Federal Processing Center. And this is actually all in the emergency center's establishment. You can watch the rest of the report at Infowars.com. It's in the article by Kurt Nimmo that just went up minutes ago. FEMA camp rendition hubs discovered. We're going to Twitter this out as well. Please retweet it. Get this article out to everyone you know, please. And in it, we've got KBR putting out the contracts to man the FEMA camps and admitting it's for civil unrest, the barbed wire, the stockades. It's all there. It's all proven in this article by Nimmo with the video that this is a long-term program. I got to get Kurt to add the part about it. They want to put the homeless in sports stadiums and lock them up at night for their own safety. That's already happening in California. In Sacramento, I sent reporters there 2 years ago on that. Now, shifting gears into another big report that we're premiering here on the radio and to those watching on prisonplanet.tv, this new special report breaks down just some of the lies of the incredibly manipulative and deceptive TSA. Here it is.
You to go places in half the time it takes to travel by car. For some trips, it'll be faster than flying without the pat-down.
It's the sort of security we've seen a lot of since 9/11 at places like airports and now here at the bus station.
Specific, credible, recent threats that are causing what some believe to be these invasive screening tactics.
Well, Robin, we know the threats are real, and we've seen this latest information coming out of Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula.
Remind Americans why we now check our liquids. It's because a mother was willing to blow up the baby and the entire plane with the liquids.
Right.
The Department of Homeland Security has not been forthcoming with the public about the true extent of radiation risk.
Advanced imaging technology would not have discovered the type of bomb that Umar Farouk Abdul-Muttalib had secreted in his underwear.
Well, I think reasonable people may disagree on that.
We are not retaining, we are not keeping. They're not designed for that at all.
The TSA is reiterating today that although its machines can store images when they're being tested, quote, all functionality to store, export, or print images is disabled.
Throughout history and in every culture, there is a basic precept of law that if someone has been caught lying before...
What's the difference between lying and misleading Congress?
It all has to do with your state of mind and whether or not you had the requisite intent to come up with something that can be considered perjury or a lie.
You should not believe anything else that they tell you.
It would not apply to those who are here illegally. It's not true.
And when someone has been confirmed to be a congenital or serial liar, you are a fool to believe anything they say.
It has been months, and you tell me that you're not, you weren't doing it because of an IG investigation. Well, let's go through a few questions here, Madam.
Well, wait just a minute.
Let me finish my question.
Wait just a minute.
Madam Secretary, let me finish my question.
Go ahead, that insinuation is not accurate.
You know about the TSA and their penchant for molesting children, raping women in parking lots, robbing luggage, stealing cash out of wallets, beating people up, and then lying about them. You know about their penchant for child porn and the incredible statistical analysis that we've seen that they are predisposed to engage in crime. No kidding. Who else wants a job groping men, women, and children all day and making old ladies who can't walk crawl out of wheelchairs and ripping colostomy bags off of people's sides? Who else wants to abuse people all day but criminals and control freaks? But in this report, I want to look at just some of their lies because they're constantly lying. And the prostitute Trader Stream Media that serves the globalist and these brown shirts of the federal takeover need to all be called on the carpet. Now, let's just look at the latest lie that came out today. The Tennessean newspaper reports Nashville airport video doesn't show irate Senator Rand Paul. And they link to the video, and there is Paul being completely calm with the police. They're now also having to admit that he was detained for more than an hour and a half, as he said he was, which under common law is a custodial arrest. So there you have it. Within minutes of this being put out by Ron Paul on his Twitter, the New York Times talked to the TSA and said he wasn't even stopped for 5 minutes. He's a liar, and he was irate. And the police put in their report, part of this culture of lying, that he was irate. All lies by a group of people that lie and lie and lie some more. And then, of course, lie some more. And we have the White House siding with the TSA. We have Rush Limbaugh coming out and saying, oh, his dad's like a Muslim terrorist. You know, let start the groping. You know, after all, he flies on private jets. But let's look at some of the TSA lies that affect us all. Radiation. They've had studies back in the late 1990s from these same systems. And that's why they weren't deployed all over the world. These things have been around for decades, that they're massively linked to different types of cancer. So Johns Hopkins and many other prestigious universities come out and put out reports in the last few years saying, our studies show this stuff can give you cancer. I mean, the scans are so powerful, you can see the skeleton bones in the fingers. I mean, it's high-powered. And all these studies come out, so the TSA comes out and says, Johns Hopkins says it's totally safe. And the head of Johns Hopkins radiology department comes out and says, our study actually says the opposite. And the TSA doesn't correct their mistake because it's not a mistake. They are a pack of criminal, out of control, 10th Amendment violating and 4th Amendment violating goons who are now setting up checkpoints on the highways of America. And that's why the feds don't care how much anger or how many tens of billions in tourism the TSA destroys. From foreigners that won't come here and Americans like myself that won't travel because I won't have my family groped, because they're getting ready to be all over the United States. They're going to hire your local police, it's been announced. They're going to run checkpoints, mobile vans. It's already happening. So you think you're just not going to fly and get away with this? Oh, sorry. There's plenty of people that couldn't hold a job at McDonald's that are going to be officer and agent TSA. And your wife's in deep trouble. And your children, they're in even deeper trouble. Psychologists have come out and pointed out that the TSA groping of children is actually training them that when pedophiles touch them to test and see if they've been acclimated for rape, that they will submit to the touching and not say no. And what's the TSA say? They say, we don't think that's the case. And again, lie to the public and say everything's okay and claim, despite the fact that there are hundreds of videos and photos showing them taking babies' diapers off and going in the pants of small children, they come out and say over and over again for 3 years, we do not go in the clothes or even through the clothes and touch genitals of under 12. And then hundreds of videos come out and they say, okay, we're going to stop. Last time they said that was in November of 2010. And continued it over and over again and said again, we won't do it. Continued it. Lying, lying, lying. First they say it's not groping and sexual assault. Then they say they're not doing it. Then they say they're going to stop doing it and continue it over and over again. Lying about radiation, lying about groping, lying about the sexual assault, lying about the statistics on how many of their people are caught engaged in every crime you can imagine. But then you see bizarre statements on the TSA blog and in their press releases saying there's hardly any complaints. Why? Hardly anyone is against this, and we only pat down 2%, which is a total lie. I fly all the time. I'm forced to as a journalist. I fly a lot. My crew flies a lot. And in hundreds of flights total, we've estimated that at least a third of the people where we fly are groped, including most people who are put through the naked body scanners. So they're lying to you about radiation. They're lying to you about groping and sexual assault. They're lying and saying they're going to stop doing it to children. Or they say they never did it to children. Or they say they didn't go in the pants of Miss USA. And then she goes and gets the video and they admit they did it. But let's continue. A few months ago, a whole bunch of 85 and 90-year-old women, many of which couldn't even get out of their wheelchairs, started reporting that they were taken behind closed doors and made to take all their clothes off. And the TSA came out and said, "You're lying, we don't do that." And then so many people went public that they said, well, we do take you behind closed doors and take your clothes off. We don't call it a strip search. And then even in their apology, the women who've been assaulted by them say it's all lies. I mean, it's lies within lies within lies within lies. But what do you expect from a federal brown shirt goon force meant to dog train us and break our will to basically live like maximum security prisoners? They're coming to malls, highway checkpoints, they're already there. Sporting games. We're all being trained to have government put their hands on us, and TSA is now training for forced inoculation. Federal grants to local police, they're training them for forced inoculation. That's why they're doing this. That's why they're lying to the American people, because we're seen as an enemy, and you lie to an enemy in warfare. This is a foreign banking cartel occupying the United States, and the TSA is their shock troops to bureaucratically go out there and train us to accept this. In just the last week, Homeland Security has come out and said, we're not just about terror. We're going to hire your local police. We're going to certify who can get jobs anywhere. We're going to set up checkpoints in your town. We're going to have spies all over Twitter and Facebook. We're going to have citizen spies on the ground recording what you say politically. They are recreating classical, hardcore despotism. This is 200 proof evil. This is certified as bad as it gets. It's conscious takeover. Oh, and also they said that the machines could not physically hold images.
The machines are not set to store images. They're not set to transmit images.
And then we got the manuals sent to us by insiders that said that when they test the machines, they look to see if they can see the genitals, and that is the marker they look for to make sure that the machine is tuned right, and that indeed all the images are saved, not just at airports, but at courthouses, and have been leaked and shared, and they pin them up on the wall, and when they see a good-looking woman that's come out, they put them through them. So they lied about saving the images. There have been cases in England where they come up to famous film stars and ask them to sign scans of their own genitals. This is really happening. And of course, it's a bunch of abusers that are willing to take these jobs. Remember that basic precept in law, that if someone's been caught lying before, don't believe anything they say, and they're criminals. What do they say about the devil? He's the father of lies. Whether you believe in the devil or not, this is a devilish attribute that we're seeing. This is tyranny. Why do we just accept when government lies about Rand Paul and says that he was irate and wasn't detained? Both lies. Why do we not get upset about that? Why do we trust people that act like this? The truth is, more and more Americans are awake. Congress has a 9% approval rating. The system knows we're waking up to them. So now they're taking the velvet glove off the iron fist and just going with the iron fist. It is time to reawaken the spirit of 1776. It is time to recognize it is criminal when the TSA violates the 10th and 9th Amendment and operates in our states. But it's even more criminal when they grope our children, our wives, and our husbands and harass our old people and make cancer patients get out of wheelchairs that can't walk and make passengers help get them out of their chair. This is assault, and it's criminal. It's sexual and physical assault. But it's also criminal when we put up with it. We become cowardly accomplices to these scum. The TSA takeover of America has unified the people, and so have a lot of other issues. And the system knows that their attempt to break our will is backfiring. Get this key report out to everyone you know. The future of our republic and the world depends on it, because this corporate tyranny is being exported everywhere. Absolutely. We'll be right back. This corporate tyranny is being exported. Yeah, that's an extremely powerful piece that Aaron Dykes stayed up all night to get ready. I told him, I said, Aaron, we shot the video. We've done the research the last 2 days about their lies. I said, just take your time getting it done. And, of course, he was leaving this morning as I got here. So he'd been up working for more than 24 hours to put that together. And I'm giving it a name right now. I've got to decide here during the next break. I couldn't, in 3-minute break, I couldn't come to a... I mean, what do we say that's accurate about the video and gets people to watch it? You know, secrets of the TSA exposed, what the TSA doesn't want you to know. You know, the TSA are world champion liars. I don't know what you call it. By the way, last time we were up in Maine interviewing Charlotte Iserby a year ago for her Skull and Bones expose. It's on prisonplanet.tv. She gave me this, and I've always meant to show it to people. This is cool. If I had like a man cave at home, which I don't, I mean, I have my little office, but everything's overrun by my children. My office is in my bedroom. I have a little desk, but you know, the whole house is decorated by my wife, and it's great. It's nice. It's just it's a chick pad. I don't think that this would fit in very nicely. Maybe I'm just gonna, like, in one area of the bedroom, just start like putting moose heads and Ron Paul license plates. If you're a radio listener, I have a Ron Paul Maine license plate. Man, Maine's got a nice license plate too. I like that. It's got a little birdie right there. Got a little, he's sitting there on top of pine cone on an evergreen. It says vacation land. I tell you, I like pine cones and I like the woods. Makes me want to go hunting or fishing. Of course, to get up there, I'd probably have to have a bunch of pot-bellied perverts grab my genitals and put me in a microwave oven and then act like I'm the crazy person for not liking it. And they might rob my bags. You know, I did have TSA rob my bags. Flying back from New York, in 2005. One of my daughters was newborn, been a couple months old, and I thought, well, you know, instead of a plastic rattle, I'll go to Tiffany's. They were like 50, 60, 70 bucks a piece. I'll get her a rattle and some teething rings and stuff, and they only stole one of the things I bought. They unwrapped the little boxes from Tiffany's, and they just, so I guess, stole what they wanted. And even put the note in there that they'd been in there. But I'm supposed to like being robbed by the government. I mean, they do it anyways. You know, I can't tell you how crazy it is that I've talked to people and seen confirmed cases where they harass small businesses and companies. Even when you pay them what you're supposed to pay the IRS, it's all nebulous so they can rob you. And they'll call people in. This happened to my dad when I was a teenager. Called him in, and he said, I've given you all the receipts, all the facts. You're wanting all these penalties and interest. I don't know. I don't owe this. And they said, Mr. Jones, we're white-collar criminals. You'll pay us what we want, or we're going to charge you, and you're going to go to jail. It's only Mitt Romney and people that don't pay taxes, and Warren Buffett. And we need to stop being chumps in this country, and all you liberal Democrats need to get that fact. There's no free ride. The globalists get most of the money in corporate welfare. Big government's not our friend. Ron Paul's right. The founding fathers are right. Common sense is right. Speaking of Charlotte Iserby, we've got her book, The Deliberate Dumbing Down of America, is back in print after a year out of print, but it's a new, revised, and updated, abridged edition, only 500 pages, full of documents. Infowars.com. Get it out to every educator you know. And coming up, let's get him on right now. Bloodlines, the Illuminati author. We got the book, aplenty, available at Infowars.com, and it's powerful. Stay with us.